People wonder and even ask me outright, who am I to give advice? Who am I to create a podcast and offer life's answers, so to speak? Well, first off, I believe that any good advice is good advice regardless of where it's coming from. But the truth is, I believe we're all just as capable as anyone to be offering advice. We all live life. We all have similarities in terms of wins and losses and difficulties. So really, I'm no different than anybody else. Now, that being said, I'd like to just sort of give a little bit of my story, a little bit of my background, and maybe that will help in terms of being a little bit more relatable. Again, my journey has been different than anybody else's, while at the same time, it's been very similar. And so I'd just like to share a little bit. I'm not going to get into too much detail right now, but I'd like to just give a little bit of an understanding of some of my experiences. So I've mentioned that I am an addict, I'm an alcoholic, and I've never really had a difficult time recognizing problems. There's a lot of people out there who don't realize they have a problem. And then there are people like myself who realize it and are just not able to overcome, at least right away, sometimes ever. I would say, the story begins with my beginning to drink late at night by myself. Because of my work, I was up late, and like anybody else, once the work day was over, I wanted to, sort of kick back, maybe watch a little bit of a show and chill out before I went to sleep. Wanted something more at the end of the day than just finishing work and that's it. So I'd eat a snack and pour some wine, and that wine turned from a glass and a half or so to half a bottle to a bottle, and then I graduated from wine to vodka and scotch and whiskey. And when things got really bad financially, whatever there was available with whatever money I can scrounge up. And I would say pretty quickly I realized that I had a problem, and I wasn't like everybody else. I don't think everybody else every single night has wine, or has some kind of substance. But of course, I just thought, okay, I can control it. It's not a big deal. I can drink and just leave it at that at night. Nobody's around. It's 2, 3, whatever o'clock in the morning, and then wake up and have my day. But of course, that's not really how addiction works, and it ended up turning into, really a catastrophe. Drinking a full liter of liquor every single night, and then of course it just takes a catalyst. But you're right, sort of on the edge of everything falling out of control. And when my dad got sick with cancer, it became a daytime thing, and that's really where everything went from, let's say, medium range falling apart to absolute disaster. And I couldn't stop, and I was aware of it. I was aware that I had a problem. I always like to reference, for those of you who remember the G.I. Joe cartoon, where there'd be some kind of lesson at the end, and then you'd hear him say, and knowing is half the battle. Well, as I mentioned earlier, that half the battle was never my problem. My problem was doing something about it. And so I knew I had a problem, but I couldn't stop. And it really got to the point where my life was on the line. I didn't think I could stop. I didn't think I could live without it. I believed I wasn't able to do anything without some kind of drink, whether it was a phone call, whether it was saying goodnight to my kids. I had to have a drink beforehand. It just seemed like I couldn't do anything without that little drink. And you do that throughout the day, and you've got catastrophe on your hands. But again, I couldn't stop until finally I was so physically sick. I gave myself about 6 months to live. Then I I had resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't going to, but I I I was able to conjure up the courage to admit my problem. And I went to rehab very quickly. I would say 2 months after leaving rehab, I I fell and I drank and thought, well, shit, I couldn't do it even just 2 months after rehab until I started with a therapist who explained to me, no, it's not the end of the world. It's literally just part of the journey to stopping. Like most journeys, there are falls, but you get back up. I didn't understand that at the time. I just understood, don't do it. If you do, you're a terrible person. You don't care about your kids. You don't care about your wife or spouse. You don't care about anybody but yourself. And if after everything you went through, but no, he explained to me 90% of people who are addicts of some sort that stop, they end up relapsing. And so, so he explained to me it's just part of the journey towards being sober. When I stopped drinking alcohol, I was at rock bottom. I was going to physically die. And so sitting there at the very bottom, I had a choice to either go through the ground, both metaphorically and physically, or not. And I chose not to. And I pulled myself out of it. With the stopping of the drugs, I wasn't at a physical, I'm going to die soon, rock bottom. It was, I see a better me. I know that there's a better me. There's a better version of all of us. And I want to get there. That's my motivation for having stopped the drugs. Again, it was at the very lowest of the low to stop the alcohol. And then with the drugs, I'm kind of standing there in the middle and I see a better me. I see a much greater version of myself. And I decided to stop the drugs because I want to become as best as I can that version. My point is there's always a reason, a good reason, that you can do whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's stopping some kind of habit or thing that is holding you back, or doing proactively something that you want and have wanted. Maybe you're too nervous, kind of like I was and still am with this podcast. So am I qualified to offer advice? Are you qualified? The answer is yes, because again, as I said in the beginning, we're living it. I've struggled. You struggled. I've conquered. You've conquered. I've faltered, and the same could be said for yourself, I'm sure. As I've said, we go through our individual experiences, but there's so many things that we share, and I hope that by hearing part of my story and realizing that you're not alone in whatever you might be facing, you gain something and realize that there is an end and you come out better for it. It's up to you to make that happen, but you can. That's the key. You can. A lot of times we think it's just too much for us, but I'm here to tell you that you can. So believe that you can. Find the reasons and the motivation to do what you want to do. They are there. Just find them, grab onto them, don't ever let go of them, and know that you can because other people have and are. You're not different. And I'm living proof of that.